if I were a rich man. Diddle 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 dig dig digger dig diddle diddle dum. All day long I'd biddy biddy bum. If I were a wealthy man.
Welcome to Amusing Jews, where we celebrate Jewish contributors and contributions to American popular culture. I'm Jonathan Friedmann.
And I'm Joey Angelfield.
Producer-engineer Mike Tomren is working somewhere behind the scenes. Amusing Jews is a project of Adat Chaverim, Congregation for Humanistic Judaism, the Jewish Museum of the American West, and Atheists United Studios. Hey, Joey. Behind every great actor is a great acting coach. At least I think that's a true truism. But what do I know? I'm not an actor or an acting coach. Who better to get to the truth of this possibly true truism than today's guest?
We're thrilled to chat with renowned acting coach Margie Haber, whose celebrity clients include Brad Pitt, Halle Berry, Tiffany Haddish, and many others. She runs Margie Haber Studio in Los Angeles and is the author of 2 books, How to Get the Part Without Falling Apart and Your Comfort Zone, Take a Risk and Become the Lead in Your Own Life. Margie, welcome to Amusing Jews.
Oh, isn't this fat? I just want to let you know that I still have some Judaism, even though I've been living in California for decades.
You have over 40 years of experience as a teacher, author, and acting coach. How did you discover your knack for getting the best out of your clients?
So that's such an interesting question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question because the knack is a good word, knack, and I love words. But I think back, and I think everything for me has to be trust. That actors trust me. You know, I don't just work with actors. I work with everybody to give them opportunities to open up and communicate and remove the wall and everything that my book, Fuck Your Comfort Zone, or Beat, whatever, beat, fuck, whatever your comfort zone is about. But I grew up, my whole thing has been about empathy and curiosity. I think if you can understand that human beings all want to like each other, they all want to be friends, that they're just scared. And that when we're willing to say, you know what, I'm going to fuck my comfort zone and I'm going to do things through curiosity and empathy. That started when I was just young, when I grew up in the 5-town Jewish neighborhood, where it was all Jews, one shiksa, okay, if you don't know what that means, all the non-Jewish women, people. And my best friend was Anita Davis, good old Anita Davis, because she wasn't Jewish. I lived across the street from a church with nuns, so I loved going in there because I was so curious to understand what it would be like to become a nun. It shows you how crazy I was even then. But I was just curious, always curious and always wanting to just find things that I really shouldn't be involved. And like, if these people don't belong, I don't belong in this group. So I'd always want to get to that group, I went to Ithaca College and Brooklyn Graduate School and majored and became a speech therapist, but I majored in speech pathology and audiology. And I did a thesis on stuttering. And I found it fascinating to why, you ask the question why, and people are fascinated by it. Why did these people stutter? And how can I help them? It's always been my thing. Maybe that's why I wanted to be a nun. I wanted to help people, even though I'm Jewish, a Jewish nun. And so when I went and I met Mary Wilson, which I'm sure we'll talk about sooner or later, in 1969, because she was singing in New York, and I was early because I don't procrastinate, and I love being on time. I can't stand being late. She's always late. So there was this connection. And why would we become friends? I mean, her world was completely different than my world. I mean, the Supremes, okay, Diana Ross, the Supremes, right? Stop in the name of love, in case people don't know who they are. That was pretty amazing to have on my wall in college, Dionne Warwick and Leslie Uggams and the Diana Ross, the Supremes, and there she was. But there was a trust again. There was this, oh, I want a friend. Margie could be my friend. And it's beautiful when you can remove that and start to do that. And then when I came to LA and taught at Strasbourg, and so all these thousands of actors that came from all over the world and came to the United States because they had an accent, and to help them, guide them, to teach them this phrasing that I taught, which eventually became the Haber phrasing I've used in the paper and communicating. That time really made me understand how much I love teaching. It made me understand that I do have a knack, as you would say, because I wasn't any better than they were, and they weren't any better than me. And as a teacher, because we're the same, and you help me and I help you, there is this dance we take. And that's the basis of my philosophy, is that the relationship guides us. So that became the knack of, I guess, people believing, you know what, I trust her and I want to be vulnerable. I want to open with her.
That's interesting. So you're kind of reconfiguring the model in a way, it sounds, where the teacher historically is sort of the one that is superior, and there's a hierarchy. And for you, you found that getting the best out of people really requires a friendship.
If you find that people are fascinating, you're going to want to find out more about them. And then if you let people in and are vulnerable, then they're going to be, because everyone wants to take that dance together. So no, I am a guru in the one sense only that I really know what I'm doing in the area of creating a life and helping people drop their walls. But I'm just as fucked up as everybody else. I'm not any different than you are.
You dedicate your book, Fuck Your Comfort Zone, to your late best friend, Mary Wilson of the Supremes. And through Mary, you got to hang out with Tom Jones, Michael Jackson, the Four Tops, the Temptations, other musical legends of the era. Got any good stories?
You know how you meet certain people, Jonathan and Joey, that change your lives? There's just somebody who go into your life and go, that person is my lifeline. And because I met her in 1969 and I said yes to our friendship, I said yes to coming out here, I said yes to living with her and all that stuff. We were very good friends. I am to be a lesbian, but we were only friends. Just want to clarify that in case anyone wants to know. Best friends from the beginning of time. I remember the first time we met, we were in New York, and she used to come to New York, and she was so excited to have a friend. She grew up in, poverty, and then all of a sudden she became a superstar. Like all these Motown people became superstars. And then all of a sudden she's now really rich and really famous, and nobody can talk to her like a normal person. So I remember one time she was dating Tom Jones. I went to pick her up in my blue Mercedes, no, my blue Camaro. It was not a Mercedes. I wish it was a Mercedes. A blue Camaro convertible, 1969. I picked her up, put on the music, smoked a little weed, drove out to from New Jersey to Connecticut, and there is Tom Jones. I mean, come on, he was like the biggest star ever in '68, right? And there he was. He comes out, and he wraps his arms around her, puts her down in this beautiful, dancing moment, and says, "Oh, Mary, Mary, I love you so." And I'm going, am I really watching this shit? Of course, we're stoned, and he ate it hot. He loved champagne, so we had to really spray ourselves and everything. But all I ever did was hang during those years. That's never happened again. Now I'm ambitious. Now I have a big studio. I have 14 teachers that teach for me. I have written many more books. I'm writing another book. I'm very ambitious. So it's never enough. I always said, but during that time when I was 23, we just hung in a backyard, and everyone came over. We're talking about the Temptations, and our best friend was Duke from the Four Tops, so he came over. And of course, Michael Jackson came over. He was only 10 years old then, and he was so adorable. And I throw him in the pool. I think he may have danced me, give me a little too dancing. I don't know. I'm not sure about the dancing, but he did. I did throw him in the pool, and he was a sweetheart, a sweet, nice, darling young boy. Sad. It's sad because he had so much going for himself during that time of his life. And we just hung, we just hung out. It was such a luxury that I don't have now. I can also remember Stevie Wonder, who to me was just so talented and so fabulous. And later on, Mary, I don't remember exactly how long ago it was, but Mary had received an honor for some award, and I wasn't sitting at her table. I was sitting at a different table, and she was at this table, and she saw me, and she said, "What are you doing over there? Come on." So, because I didn't even know where she was sitting, I just sat down. And so I sat next to her, and I said, "Oh, I realized I forgot my purse, and I left it at the other table." And there, sitting on my seat, was Stevie Wonder. Now, what am I going to say to him? I mean, it's like, what do I say? My purse is under his feet. I don't really know how I'm going to possibly get it. So I said, excuse me. And I went down under his feet. And then he put his hands over on my face to see who it was. And I said, "I hope you know it's Margie." "Oh, yeah, Margie, Mary's friend." As he's putting his hand to my face. Such a great guy. Yeah, we did a lot. And Vegas. Oh, my God, Vegas. I was a nice white Jewish girl, with all these famous Black people, except the one time when we used to play, we loved to play blackjack. It would be Diana Ross, me, Cindy Birdsong, Mary Wilson, Berry Gordy, and George Hamilton. Don't ask me how he got there, but he did. So I could go on and on, but that's just some stories.
Enjoying the show? Click like and subscribe. You describe the comfort zone as predictable, boring, and stagnant. In your experience, what happens when we step outside of that zone and confront what you call the happiness-destroying gate guard called fear?
Well, I want to expand a little bit on that, because fear isn't always bad. It's not really necessarily always true. If you have a wall in front of you and you cannot push through that wall because that fear is controlling you, then fear can be bad. But fear actually can motivate you. Fear actually, what's really bad, and I talk about this in my first chapter of Fuck Your Comfort Zone, is neutral, staying in neutral. Because when fear paralyzes you, and it keeps you in this state of oh my God, I'm afraid to do anything but just be safe, that's when it's bad. But it can motivate you. So I think that definitely is a misnomer when you think about fear being bad. You know what I mean?
You insert Margisms throughout Fuck Your Comfort Zone, like this one. Be intimate with this moment, knowing it will never happen again. Did you coin the term Margism, and do you keep a journal of these aphorisms?
So I don't know when I started. I don't think I ever knew they were Margisms. I was always kind of pretty wise. I mean, I think I've been pretty wise due to my students making me wise. So the wisdom that happened through the years would just be things that come out of my little brain. And then when I started writing my book during COVID, and I started realizing that there's wisdom in these things, I would come up with them. And I would say that I have many of them that they're in the book and that I come up with, and my students tell me, "Oh, Margie, that's a great Margism." Not just me. I mean, stop, which is one of my favorite. I'm sure you know because you read my book. Stop, take a breath, observe, proceed. That's a huge one for me, guys, because I tend to, I'm on. So I don't take a breath and say, maybe I need to see if when I'm walking into the office, when Hamish, who runs my company, is on the phone, maybe I need to stop before I just rush in, take a breath, observe, is he on the phone or not? And then proceed. Detach with kindness, expose your secrets, invite your adult in, imagine the imaginary cigarette. Sometimes when I'm just on, too much is going on, I have to just sit with myself. I have to take an imaginary cigarette. You have to read about it in this book, but you take a deep breath, and then you watch the air go by, the imaginary air, and then you let it out, you smile, and then you just sit with that moment of being present. And it just always better than Quaaludes from the old days. All just kind of calms me down.
You write that procrastination is a way of staying in your comfort zone and a bad habit developed from a fear of failure. Could you elaborate and maybe give us some tips for overcoming procrastination?
If I ever procrastinated, I wouldn't know what the hell I'm thinking. I wouldn't remember what I'm doing. I have to do things now. Like I will do immediately. It's always been that way, not only because I'm 110, but because even when I was younger, I just needed to know that I got things done. Because the opposite happens for me. I get so fearful if I'm procrastinating. I mean, I just get afraid, oh my God, am I going to remember? I'm going to get it done. And that really pulls me into a whole self-esteem issue. I think that procrastination is connected to your self-esteem. I think if I procrastinate, I don't have to see whether I can get it done. Excuse me. I think it connects with success failure syndrome. If I really succeed, well, what would that mean? That I have to do it more. And if I fail, that would be horrible. There's a chapter 5 in my book called The 5 Ego States, which I really love. It's one of my favorites. And you have to look at, see which of these voices are appropriate for you and how that helps you. Their critical parent, which obviously is very difficult because that's the voice that puts you down. The fearful child, which connects to the critical parent that makes you have so much doubt and depression. The nurturing parent, which is the part of you that takes care of you that's so underused. The voice that takes care of yourself, not other people. The playful child, which says, fuck it, and the adult that gets things done. So procrastinating, the way you can stop yourself from procrastinating is to look at those voices and go, you know what? I need to put the critical parent and the fearful child in a small box here, and I need to bring out those 3 other ones. Like the nurturing parent says, you know what? You deserve to have a voice. You deserve to finish this project now. You deserve to do this. Well, the playful child will say, come on, baby, let's get this done. And the adult will say, this is what you need to do. You need to get up in the morning. You need to write this note to yourself. And so you have that working for you. It really helps.
Well, laughter is widely compared to medicine. It can increase oxygen intake, stimulate the heart, lungs, and muscles, release endorphins, and relieve stress. But you write that laughter can also be a mask. How so?
So just in talking before what I was saying, right? I was saying that you have to laugh at yourself, sometimes when you just are I can't stop it anymore. You have to bring the playful child out. I obviously, as you can tell, I love laughing. I love being playful. To me, I mean, that's what made me teach for all these years, is being able to be playful. I love laughing, and I have 2 sisters that are older than me, which is shocking. They're younger than me as far as just amazing. And we travel a lot. Joan is a travel agent. Lois works with her, and I teach all over the world. So we always, wherever I teach, we then play. So I taught at this time I was teaching near Africa. I was actually teaching in Amsterdam, not that near, but we decided from Amsterdam we're going to go to Africa. And this goes back many years ago. But when I think about humor and how great it is, it's like, here we are there's this hotel. It's like a circle hotel in the middle of this where salt water surrounds it. And all these animals come at night. And, you want to make sure that you're up watching these animals. There could be elephants and there could be rhinoceros and all these things. So you have to be very quiet, okay? Very quiet. So, of course, the bell rings. You get up out of your bed. You run down. And we run down to this area where you see it all lit up. And there are the elephants coming. And there are rhinoceros. And you can't laugh. And you say that to Lois, Joan, and myself. Not a good thing to do. Because one of us does. So, of course, I think it was Joan started laughing. God knows what. Lois started laughing. I started laughing. The 3 of us were laughing like insane. We were kicked out. So you have to understand that humor is a great way to release those endorphins, to feel good about yourself. That's a separate issue. That's a whole separate thing than how we get through our life, our world. And I'm quoting my chapters, in chapter 4, Does Your Armor Serve You? There are 3 different armors. There's indifference. I don't give a shit. There's angry, well, screw you. And then there's humor. Right on, baby. Right? And the humor mask, protects us. Tiffany Haddish is my student, and she's learned to do that from the beginning of time. When she was studying with me, and she was homeless, she was studying with me, and everything was, let's joke. And I said, well, I want to know what's underneath that, which is the core, your sadness, your pain, your fear, your love. So what did I do that for, girl? I'm really going to do comedy my whole life. And I said, yeah, but underneath comedy is the truth. And the truth is the core, the love, the sadness, the fear, the pain. So we cover it in order to get through life. And that's not a bad thing, because otherwise we'd put in a mental hospital. It's good to have some kind of mask, but you could overdo that and not be vulnerable enough.
Actors have learned a lot from you over the years. What have you learned about yourself from working with actors?
It's a two-way street, isn't it? I mean, with anything you do, I hope when you're doing what you're doing, that you learn from each other and that you learn from your guests. It's a constant. I'm a teacher, so everything's about learning, right? I wrote the book during COVID, and it was because of their willingness to buck their comfort zone, their willingness to go on the Zoom world and do the most miraculous things, like don't look like a play. I mean, things we did on the Zoom world was just phenomenal. They have taught me not to be frightened of that media. I think one of the things that's really great for everybody who's listening, and I think this comes from my teachings, but it's also from my students, is to validate your positives first. You have to validate yourself. I validate the fact that my students have helped me become a better human being. I'm kinder. I'm warmer. I'm a more creative human being. I embrace my imperfections because of them. You know, I just think there are just these different parts of myself I'm willing to look at because of them. And then to know that they have taught me a world of imagination that is limitless. They are the ones who taught me that. And I mean, it goes both ways. And I think that for me as a teacher, I mean, I could have been anything. I was an actor. I could have been director. There's not a better profession in the world than teaching. I mean, how blessed am I? So I cherish every moment of teaching because of them.
And it seems that since your subject of teaching is the human condition, essentially, that you really do have to know even more about yourself than a normal teacher might in a different kind of context. If you're teaching math or science or something like that, I mean, you have to know deeply every part of yourself in order to be able to understand your students.
I think if you're a math teacher or a science teacher, it's not the subject. It's the connections and relationships that they trust you for. I don't care. I remember my son had a history teacher, and he was just funny as all hell. He used to keep a head, I don't know if it was real or not, in his drawer. And now when he taught something about the crazy world that we lived in, I don't think it's the subject always, but it's the joy. And if you're joyful, then I think that other people get joyful.
Indeed. Yeah, there's something about how you approach any subject. You have to do it in a humanized way. And it seems like that's really your gift.
Yeah, to me, everything's about being human. It's about going, I teach acting. I mean, my book, Fuck Your Comfort Zone, is not an acting book. So in order for you to create a character's life, you have to know yourself really well. Like if I can't get angry and my character gets angry, then how can I really access that? Because I'm protecting myself. But same thing with relationships. If I can't get angry and express myself with you, my relationship, and I'm closed off, how can I really express my relationship to you? It's the same thing.
Well, thank you so much for teaching us, Margie.
I hope you enjoyed coming to, it's yours, not my podcast.
And to our audience, now back to your regularly scheduled lives.
Amusing Jews is here to amuse you. If you like being amused, go ahead and click like and subscribe.